Hello and welcome back to From the Be-All End. Yep, there's no Clarets match this weekend, but still plenty of Clarets issues to discuss, plenty of topics for us to get our heads around. Welcome back. I'm Simon Evans. I'm with Paul Woodhouse, Darren Bentley and Chris Bowden for this episode. Gents, we're going to deal with a few issues that we couldn't really get to in all the sort of excitement of deadline day. One thing that's come out of that transfer window is concerning our former goalkeeper, James Trafford, who, as we know, went back to Manchester City. City then going in and signing Donnarumma from Paris Saint-Germain. Champions League winning goalkeeper, you would think maybe the first choice. He's only 26 as well, so it's not as though it's a stopgap. It leaves James Trafford in a strange position, doesn't it, after a summer where, he looked set to go to Newcastle United on several occasions. Chris Bowden, kick us off with this one because you're our Trafford correspondent. What do you make of the situation he finds himself in now?
Well, this is the nature of the beast, isn't it? If you join, one of the elite clubs in Europe, and they get the opportunity to sign elite footballers, they will do. And if you find yourself knocked down the pecking order, it's up to you to find a solution. Either fight your way back, or you find somewhere else to go and play your football. But if someone someone of the quality of Donnarumma and the experience of Donnarumma at the top level becomes available, it's a no-brainer. I've got to say, it's not a given. Donnarumma, as we all know, he's an absolutely supreme shot stopper. His performances against Arsenal in the Champions League were absolutely magnificent. But for his size, it's not the greatest at coming and commanding his area and taking crosses. Like he's not a Nick Pope type, even given his size. And obviously, with his feet, that's the reason why PSG have got shut of him. So it's a surprise Guardiola would go there with his opinions on Joe Hart when he first landed there. I mean, he signed infinitely inferior goalkeeper in Claudio Bravo until he signed Ederson, who basically he changed it in many ways, like Guardiola changed the way we play football. The way Ederson played with his the accuracy of his long kicking. You couldn't press Manchester City at all because he'd just ping the ball over the top of you. So Trafford, he's got it all on, but he's got the ability, and he's probably a better all-round. He's better with his feet. It's just on him though, because you'd imagine Donnarumma will get the shirt for now.
Yeah, and Daz, I mean, it's a situation where a player's made a decision in the summer. He's had 3 games at the start, and suddenly he finds himself in another position. He's stuck with this now, isn't he? He's stuck with this decision because Pep Guardiola can be pretty brutal. As Chris referring to the Joe Hart situation, he's done that with other players as well. It doesn't matter. He spent, and it can work both ways. He spent a lot of money on Jack Grealish and didn't care about leaving him out of the team either. But it does feel like, it's hard to imagine Trafford keeping that number 1 spot at City, isn't it?
Big teams tend to stockpile players. They love to do it. These are Chelsea, the biggest exponents of that. They had a squad of about 53, I think, at one stage, and 25 out on loan. But if you're a big club and you're in various competitions, inevitably the top managers like to stockpile the best players. My first thoughts when I heard the news was that Donnarumma had a really tough paper around him. He's only 26.
I know. Exactly.
Because he looks about double that.
Yeah.
My second thought was, yeah, he's been royally screwed over. And when the dust settles a little bit, you think, well, he may well have to sit on the sidelines and become the Carabao Cup keeper. Potentially the Champions League keeper, stroke FA Cup keeper. But he's going to learn a lot from Donnarumma, and he's going to become a better goalkeeper in time from having Donnarumma alongside him on the training ground. This is a kid who only a couple of years ago was playing in Bolton. Suddenly now he's playing one of the best sides in the world with one of the best keepers in the world who's challenging him. So it's going to make him a better player. And we know one thing about James Trafford, he's not been short of confidence. And as Chris says, I think he'll fancy himself to just oust Donnarumma. That may not happen, but ultimately it could turn out still to be a good move for him, but it might well be that he has to take a seat on the bench and take a step backwards to make that step forwards.
I mean, it's World Cup year as well, though, isn't it, Woody? I mean, this on the surface appears to be something that would really damage his chances of being in the England squad, let alone being number one.
Exactly. And it's not as if like the Donnarumma thing's come out of absolutely nowhere. It's been floated around for a few weeks, hasn't it? As soon as he signed, Donnarumma got a mention, and I do feel bad for James Trafford because it may not have happened if he'd have had three absolute blinders, apart from the fact that he had two absolute howlers and looked like he was recapturing his VK form. And, it's one of those. If you suddenly find yourself out of the team now, Donnarumma comes in and he's solid, what does he then do? How can you show or really, become a better keeper, especially in the Premier League, which is what he's got to do, just playing the odd, Carabao Cup game? And he's then back in that same situation of either having to get farmed out elsewhere or, something happens to Donnarumma or whatever. So I do feel bad for him, but I can't see how it's necessarily a progression for his career by any stretch.
Chris, we have a chairman who's had a habit of re-signing former Burnley players.
Good grief.
Is it unthinkable that in a year's time, let's say in a year's time, and Burnley have survived, they're looking forward to a new Premier League season, Dubravka's another year older, and he's 37, is he, Dubravka?
He will be, next year.
Yeah,
35 now, 36.
Yeah, it'd be 37 then. Is it inconceivable that he comes back for a year on loan at Burnley to get that Premier League experience if he's only played in the odd cup game for City?
I think it's fair to say he's probably outgrown us. I think they'd be takers higher up the Premier League table, but I think that ship sailed, unfortunately. But looking at his England chances, to be fair, I mean, once you put Pickford's going to be the number one, but beyond that, Ramsdale's not getting a kick at on loan at Newcastle. Pope's obviously there, but it seems to be out of the picture, and they don't fancy because he's not good enough with his feet. So you've got Henderson, who had a fabulous cup final, and he started the season well. Johnston's out the picture again, so I think Trafford might well just go there as a third choice goalkeeper anyway. And see how they all all these international groups. They all like a goalkeeper that's not going to upset the apple cart, don't they? And if Trafford's gone there as backup for most of the season, not kicked up a fuss at City, then it puts him in good stead for the tournament in the summer.
I can already hear Justin in my ear saying, "I don't care about him anymore. He's not a Burnley player. He doesn't exist for me." So let's move on from Manchester City's James Trafford, who of course we're interested in. And looking back on that transfer deadline a little bit, not so much the incomings, because we went through those in the Clarets Extra episode, but players we've been left with still who didn't go out on loan. Several have gone out on loan. Obviously, Manuel Benson, that deal did get done. He's gone to Swansea City. But we're still left with quite a few players, aren't we? And I'm just going to chuck the names at you. I mean, first off, one of them is a defender, Hannes Delcroix, at the bottom of that long list of defenders that we have at the club. Woody, do you think that is an accident? Because, I mean, you would have thought they'd have been able to find a home for him in Belgium or Holland or somewhere. Or do you think he's been kept as possible cover and that he might actually be able to do a job?
I mean, good question. I mean, obviously, Swansea preferred Benson to having Delcroix back, but it's a weird one, isn't it? It's like I've never kind of understood. I mean, I kind of do and I kind of don't, but it's a weird situation to be in. It's a bit like Chelsea, isn't it? Liam Delap tweaks an hamstring and then they try and claim everybody they're trying to get rid of, bring them back straight away. And it's like Delcroix's not good enough. He's not good enough. He doesn't become, kind of good enough because somebody pulls a fetlock, So.
Well, that's what happened to Egan Riley, isn't it?
True. I mean, but that's still I think Delcroix will be all right after a few games in the Championship. he wouldn't be CJ level, but Premier League's a different beast, isn't it?
Mm. What have your impressions been of him, Chris, like in the games that he's featured for us here and there?
Delcroix, I mean, given that he was pitched in pretty much as soon as he signed at left back, which we were made aware that he could play, but he's a left-sided centre half. I thought he was very good in the cup tie at Tottenham, which we were unfortunate to lose. And I think he was more a victim of the change of manager, to be honest. Parker just wanted his own bodies in there. Whether Delcroix had a look at the Championship and thought, nah, it's not for me, I want out, sort of thing. But it just seemed he was, without being in a bomb squad, he was, like an unofficial member of a Burnley bomb squad, and they ended up firing him out to Swansea. But I don't think we'll see him in a Burnley. He was nowhere near the side for the Derby game in the cup the other week, and I don't think we'll see him anywhere near again. To be honest, he'll just be picking up his wages for the foreseeable.
I mean, we've done reasonably well at getting players out, haven't we? Really, but when you look at the rest of the names on the list we put together, Mike Tresor. We'll park that one, I think, Mike Tresor, because we just don't know what's been going on there. But it's as well as Delcroix, there's Jadon Bernal and Enoch Adjei as forward players. Obviously, there's players who were injured, Zeki Amdouni, Jordan Bayer, who we're not expecting to see in action for a while. Hopefully, Bayer a little bit sooner, because he was coming back, wasn't he? And then he had some sort of recurrence or setback. Daz, when you look at those two forward players, they're youngish players, Jadon Bernal, Enoch Adjei, normally they're of that sort of age that you would say go and get some games and go out on loan. Do you think we should read anything into them not being sent out?
It's an odd one that they weren't sent out, I think, because they're clearly not going to get a look in this season. They're well down the pecking order behind Ashley Barnes, who's not even third choice at the minute, probably, and Barnes is not going to get a game. So those two are really going to struggle. I mean, there are still a few international windows open, which is crazy because we thought the window had shut, but there's still a few European countries and Saudi Arabia that are still open. But I don't know. I just don't see where they're going to go. It doesn't feel like they're the sort of players who are going to go abroad to get experience. You'd have felt if they're going to go anywhere, it'd be Championship League One and give them a bit of a breeding against sort of rough-ass defenders, wouldn't you? So they could well be just stuck here for education purposes and just learning the trade. Tresor, well, the Belgian window's still open, boys. There's 2 or 3 days of the Belgian window yet, but that would not surprise us one little bit, would it, if he went?
Yeah, I'd forgotten about the Belgian window. I mean, that might be the Hannes Delcroix solution as well.
Turkish window,
yeah. I think you've got Belgium and Poland on the 8th. Then on the 9th, you've got Romania, Switzerland and Czechia. And then Saudi Arabia following suit, and then Turkey and Greece still to come as well, and Mexico on September the 13th. I mean, we're all saying the window should shut before the season starts. It shuts in instalments. It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
I can see Mike Tresor in Poland, can't you? You don't want to play for Burnley. Good grief.
You can see him maybe in Saudi Arabia, but I think
I'm not saying he don't want to play for Burnley. Obviously, there's been mitigating factors.
And I know we don't want to go there because we've been there so many times, but that Belgian window is looming large. There's a big red light on top of that Belgian window. Says 3 days to go. And if they are thinking of getting him out, back home is the obvious thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it does lead on to my next question, which is the lingering free agents. We did a poll the other day, and a few of the players who got discussed in it who were free agents have been snapped up now. Players like Kurt Zouma, who's gone to Cluj in Romania, and I'm informed by eagle-eyed Chris Bowden. But there's been a few other players who've been snapped up who were free agents. Dele Alli is now back on the market, which is an unfortunate, sorry story, isn't it? But
have to see what North West County clubs think about that.
But
I think Ali's had 3 chances now, hasn't he? After slumping at Spurs, and if he's not going to take these opportunities at Everton, Besiktas, and he's played 10 minutes for Como, hasn't he?
You fear his days are numbered, don't you? You fear he's just drift out of the game. Do a David Bentley.
Your best thing for him, probably. I mean, you go back to Milton Keynes and just try and start it all again, sort of thing. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know,
But it does make me wonder, if Tresor goes, Woody, that midfield of ours, I mean, the cover for our starting midfield is basically Josh Laurent and Tresor at the moment. If Tresor does go out, does your mind turn to Christian Eriksen, who's still a free agent and who's not a player who's been on a downward spiral or anything like that at all? He was featuring reasonably regularly for United. I mean, is that a move you would make, a number 10 like that?
I mean, yes, you would, wouldn't you? I mean, it kind of depends on how much he's on, and he still thinks he's valid. He's had offers from this side of the pond, hasn't he, and elsewhere, and he said he wants to play in Western Europe, still thinks he's got something to offer. And why not? I mean, I was a little bit surprised to see Ramsey go, apart from the fact that, I mean, he obviously needs game time. But yeah, like you say, even with Tresor still here, we're still a little bit light in midfield, So, but having that added experience, somebody who's got the nous to just do 20 minutes, at the end of a game, it'd be, pick us up, 1 or 2 points in some vital games, I would have thought. So yeah, I think it does look a little bit threadbare.
I mean, Daz, I wanted to ask you about Ramsey because when we discussed his departure on the last pod, we noted that, you'd made a very strong point about his performance against Derby County, that he was really playing for his place and had really grafted, like he was proving a point to himself and to everybody else. Were you surprised to see him heading out of the door?
Yeah, really surprised. I mean, we haven't seen too much of him, but Chris has been banging the Ramsey drum for a few months now about when he's fit and the qualities he have, and I've not seen that much of him. But in that cup game, I just thought he stood head and shoulders, and I know the opposition's got to be taken into account, but the lad's on his way back. Yes, he needs game time, but we've got the Carabao Cup tie coming in a couple of weeks. We're light in midfield numbers. He's proven quality, I think, so he's the right age. He's an asset. I know he's only out on loan, but as you guys touched upon in the last pod, I think if he does well at Leicester, we may well never see him again. Yeah, I was really surprised to see him go, especially with the numbers we have in midfield. We've left that Josh Brownhill-sized hole in there, haven't we?
We'll get on to Josh in a minute. But Chris, what do you think about players like Christian Eriksen, who are towards the end of their career? You never quite know, do you, whether you're going to get a player who can give you 2 great years and will be remembered as a claret after that, helping you to achieve things that you might not have been able to achieve. You think about someone like Ian Wright. I mean, how many games did he play in his Burnley career? Not many, was it? But he's
like
still
17 or something like that. I think they're only 4 starts,
Yeah, most of them are on the bench.
Yeah, but he's remembered of having contributed to something that Burnley achieved, isn't he? That's what we remember. So they can work sometimes, and then you have ones like Crouch who came in and he just never really had that impact. What do you think about Eriksen? Because what does he strike you as more likely to fit into of those 2 categories?
Well, I think he's still got a shift in him. I think he's still capable of grafting. He's not sort of he's not going to be a luxury player, I don't think. I think he still can work. You don't play for Denmark if you don't work. You don't play for Brentford under Thomas Frank if you don't work.
Right.
Albeit it's a couple of years ago. He'd done all right at United, only without pulling any trees up. But he's just got that vision and that quality, hasn't he? Particularly from set play delivery. It could be like a bottom end sort of Xhaka type. Everyone's raving about Xhaka. He could have that sort of impact, I think. But it's where do we see it? Talk about like a paucity of numbers in there, but really you've got Cullen, Ugachukwu, Luiz, Hannibal, who I still see as an out and out midfielder rather than a 10, although he can play that. You've Laurent as well. If they're going to play 2 and 2 10s or whatever, he's got an abundance of 10s in there, really, with Fleming there. He could play Hannibal, as mentioned. He could play one of the wide players just off the front as well in that sort of, especially when we're at home against teams in our neck of the woods, shall we say. Yeah, I don't think it's a necessity, but it's a bit of stardust, isn't it? And I think we'd like to, I think it's one we'd probably get excited about, as as we did back in the day with the likes of Wright and Gascoigne, albeit we were a bit of a smaller fish in a smaller pond then, weren't we?
And we did with Walker.
Yeah, I mean,
and with Walker this summer. We got excited with Walker, didn't we? He's proving to be quite a nice fit.
would you press the button on that one, Daz, if the wages were right?
Yeah, I definitely would. I definitely would. As an impact player, I think definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be filling the gap, as Woody said, left by Josh Brownhill, who, according to reports, Dibble reports now, and it's hard to see any alternative to them, that he's off to Al Shabab in the Saudi Pro League. They finished 6th last year. Big money deal, £100,000 a week, tax-free, according to the reports. Woody, how does that leave you feeling? Because we've got used to players going to Saudi a bit more, but how does it leave you feeling?
I mean, I'm not really that bothered either way. Best of luck to him. It's like he's getting on a little bit, and ask yourself, would you have made that move?
Me personally?
Yes, you personally.
Yeah.
No, but
I'm playing in the Saudi league, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
You be the Stardust in the Saudi league, Sam. You be the Stardust.
Bringing that sizzle like an overpacked sausage. Yeah.
Chris, what do you think? Because
I've no truck with it at all. Like you say, if someone would say to me, like, you're going to up your wages, tax free, snap your hands off. Thank you very much. I mean, I've no idea about the standard. I know he's going to play alongside Yannick Carrasco. He's had a terrific career. Atletico Madrid and the likes. But he's 32 now, Carrasco. It's becoming that sort of MLS type retirement league, isn't it? He's a bit early for that, but that's it. Go and do what Ivan Toney. I'm sure Ivan Toney will come back in a year or so, and then he'll have his pick of Premier League clubs again. Josh Brown, there'll be takers for Josh Brownhill when he's 32. It's absolutely fit as a fiddle, isn't he? I'm sure he'll have a host of takers. Get the money in the bank. Sort of 10 million quid or so, isn't it, over a couple of years? Get the money in the bank.
How old is he?
30, Brownie.
Right. So he has 2 years over there, comes back at 32. You can see him fitting into a championship side.
Why
no
not?
problem.
Why not?
Yeah,
I mean,
probably us.
I think he's probably. He'd probably admit I think he's one of them in betweeners. He's too good for the championship, and he's been a solid Premier League player without really sort of gracing it. He's like in many ways like Robbie Blake. Robbie Blake was an absolute magician, and he had a spell with us in the Premier League. But I think over the piece at Birmingham and with us, I don't think he quite sort of cut it at Premier League level, Robbie Blake. So. And I'm one of his biggest fans, but I think he's one of them. If I were him, I don't know whether the offer was there. I'd have liked to see him go to Celtic, go and win a title, play in Europe, and see what happens there. But you can't knock the money, can you?
No, I mean, Daz, how do you think about it?
Well, the difference between Celtic and Saudi Arabia is he'll have £1 million a year in his back pocket that he wouldn't have had at Celtic. And you touch about in any work of life, if whatever your speciality is, if someone comes along and offers you £1 million more per year, tax free, for doing the same job, why wouldn't you take it? Well, you can protect your family for generations with that kind of money, can't you?
Yeah.
So I fully understand it, and I have no qualms with it at all. It's a shame. He's a loss, I think, to our league, as Ivan Toney is, like, to Premier League. But as you said, the lure of the money over there at the minute is you'd be mad not to. Absolutely mad not to.
Yeah. I think the standard, I mean, I saw Al Hilal playing in the Club World Cup, and, you can put whatever asterisks you want next to the Club World Cup, but they drew with Real Madrid and they beat Manchester City. And that game with City were a real game. There was that wasn't a messing about pre-season game.
They have a stacked roster, to be fair, haven't they, Al Hilal? A lot
Yeah.
more quality than
Ruben
Al-Shabaab.
Neves.
Yeah.
You know, Mitrovic wasn't playing in that tournament, but they had 2 Brazilians up front. You know, I think Malcolm was one of them. You know, they've got that sort of Shakhtar Donetsk level of Brazilian player, if you like, and a few Portuguese, Cancelo, like you say. You know, so you know they're at the top end, and Brownhill's joined a team that finished 6th. I saw, you know, Ronaldo's team without Ronaldo. Absolutely destroy Inter Miami in a pre-season friendly. I don't think it's a bad standard. And Saudi Arabia, of all the Middle Eastern countries, does have a football tradition. I mean, they've been qualifying for World Cups long before the money became a factor in Saudi football. You know, they have a domestic talent pool of decent footballers. What they don't have is the crowds and the atmosphere. You know, that's what he's not getting at Celtic, just, you know, from what he would have got at Celtic, sorry. But it is a pity. Not to see, for me, it's a pity not to see him back at Burnley, but there's no way we were going to be paying him that sort of wages, were we? So best of luck to him. We'll wrap up with this one. It's been a week that we went into wondering how we would come out of this week, how we'd be feeling about this season. Very quickly, sort of summarise after the window, whether you now feel we've put a squad in place that can stay in the Premier League. Woody?
A little bit more confidence as long as everybody keeps fit.
Concise answer. Chris?
Yes, for it.
I think with more know-how, and if a couple of the gambles come off, I think we've a fighting chance, yeah.
Does?
I think we're reliant on other established Premier League clubs having an absolute shocker. I still don't see us staying up unless 2 or 3 of those clubs, you know, include the promoted clubs perhaps, have real shockers. And we'll be more competitive, there's no doubt about it. I'm pleasantly surprised at how competitive we have been. But you've got to do that over 38 matches, and I think eventually it catches up with you a little bit. I still worry for us.
Yeah, I'm still disappointed that deadline day didn't see the centre half come in, and I'm still disappointed that the only addition as a central striker is Breuer. And I fear that we might regret those 2 decisions, but you never know. You know, maybe Akdal's going to really step up, or Bashir Humphries comes in and steps up in that role, and maybe Breuer's going to suddenly find that he can keep fit and start scoring goals. Let's see. We'll leave it at that. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. International break on, of course, still things to talk about. We'll be back with you before Burnley are in action again. But until then, up the Clarets.